I want to talk a little bit about the wiping the slate clean process. Now, at first glance, it's going to sound a little odd, but let me explain myself. So, what I mean by that is sometimes in life you have to have a clean slate in order to learn something else. And I can sort of remember the times where that's happened to me, where I've been broken down by life and then I get built back up. And I had a good talk with a friend of mine the other day where that will keep happening to you until you find the strongest stone. I'm using stone loosely here as symbolism, as metaphor, to hold on to, right? And I think you may know where I'm going with this if you know the Bible. So you will keep getting broken down in life, and that will wipe your previous slate clean. You will start anew. That literally happened to me multiple times where, like, I was younger and then I thought of new things. I was like, oh, I'm strong, and then fucking obliterated any sort of hope and chance I had in things. And then I would slowly start building back up to something new, and I was a different person. And then, once I got to a certain spot, it would just be obliterated once again. And then, okay, now I got to build up to something new, or now I don't want to say purpose. I feel like that's not the right word. I have to build a new image, a new self-image about myself. And see, that's the problem, is that it was always about myself. It was never about other people or the collective or, doing things for people. Like, granted, yes, I was doing things for people, but I was doing it of my own strength. I was like, oh yeah, like I am my own person here, right? Like, man, it's complicated. It's not like I was looking for validation, but I was doing things for the wrong reasons, right? And I had no clue. I just didn't know. So, like I said, that wiping the slate clean process will continue to happen. And I think a great example of this is Moses, right? Or the people that left Egypt in Exodus, where, Moses flees Egypt, and then he has that renewal process where his past identity's behind him, and he starts anew. And that will keep happening to you until you find the strongest stone to build your foundation, right? That is just a very interesting thing. And what's funny is things will come in through life. Like, if you build yourself up poorly or you build your foundation poorly, whatever the strongest destroyer of that will just wipe the slate clean every time. It's very interesting that's happened to so many people, and I'm sure that's happened to you in your life, right? I can almost guarantee it. So it's funny that is such a common occurrence for everyone, really. Like, realistically, that is such a common occurrence for everyone. The thing with wiping the slate clean as well is when you rebuild the structure, 9 times out of 10, you are not building it back worse, right? You are, I don't want to say harden your heart, because that's not true, right? You are sort of learning the ways in which you can make the better structure, like mentally, and that'll work in your favor every time, because now you have more experience, you have more knowledge on things, and you will just keep getting better until, once again, you forgot to put a load-bearing log somewhere or whatever. I'm using that as metaphor again. And then something comes in, obliterates it, and then boom, start again. So, and it sucks, especially in that starting again process, because you literally feel like less than human, right? Many a times you just feel like shit, right? I totally remember those times where I just felt like shit, and sometimes I do now, but you gotta remind yourself that certain things are the way they are because of how life is, or whatever else. I'm trying to speak to a little bit more of a broader crowd this time without bringing it back to Jesus Christ, but it always does. Literally it always does. I feel like everything anymore revolves around him. And I know I'm not really necessarily losing myself, right? But what it is in my daily life, I can recognize, those things about the Creator. So, it's necessary for growth too. right? It just is. Like, what's going to happen is you're going to think you're growing, but in fact you're going to be stagnant if you just stay. If you don't let the wave destroy the house, or you don't let the wave destroy the foundation, you're going to have a problem where you just will not grow, and you think you're going to be growing, but you're actually going to be stagnant, right? Or you're not going to be growing for the better, because all those times that happens to you is meant to be almost like a wake-up call, but not really. It's like, yes, we have periods of rest, right? But it's more so helping you recognize that what you were doing before was faulty. It wasn't going to work anyways, so it's better that it got destroyed when it did than rather letting it basically rule and consume your life, right? It's better to destroy something while it's being made incorrectly than it is to just let it go on to be something that's far worse down the road, right? It's better to just start over. And I think I had even said this in a previous video where, it was a little bit slanted, but there is a beauty in, I don't want to say starting over, but like recognizing yourself at your lowest points, right? I'm not sure if I released that or not. But yeah, hopefully, I feel like every time I make these videos, I feel like I forget something, right? And I fucking hate that, because it's just me talking to myself. That's why you hear me say, that's why I stop and stutter and stammer and all this other shit. But I promise you that when I'm talking, like if you were here with me in this room talking to me, things would make a lot more sense, because we can actually have a dialogue, right? Like when I'm talking, it's hard for me to recognize my faults in things because it's just me, right? Like you could point out the problems that I'm having with what I'm saying. Like you could be like, oh, well, that's incorrect because of this. And then I could be like, oh yeah, like that actually makes sense. I see where you're coming from. Because I'm trying to build a better foundation, right? So that my slate does not get wiped clean. And at this point, I'm not too egotistical about this, but I don't think it will, mostly because I put my faith in Jesus Christ. So, I'm not looking to essentially build my rock upon myself, because I am weak, realistically, right? I'm not strong. I can't change the times and the seasons and stop the sun and the stars and resurrect myself. I have no ability to. But placing my faith in the guy who literally knows everything. Even in 1 John, when Jesus is talking to Nathanael and he's like, I saw you under the fig tree. Like, Jesus was around when he saw Nathanael, literally implying his like omnipresence while he's around. It's just so insane. It's so insane. So I'd rather, put my faith in that guy and build my rock and my foundation upon that than just, be like, I am my own master, because I'm going to fail myself every time. And so are you. And I don't mean to kind of, throw a stone at your house, but it's going to happen. It's just going to happen. Like, we are hypocrites. We are going to make incorrect loops on things. We're going to make systems. Now, we can try our hardest. See, I respect the effort of trying. I respect the effort of trying much more than I respect the ability to make it right the first time and be egotistical about it, right? Because, sure, if it's made right the first time, it's true, but at the same time, there's nothing that's truly gained from that. You're not learning anything. You're not learning anything about how to be a better person. You're not growing, right? And we will continue to grow until whenever, I suppose, we die. I'm hoping so. And obviously, yes, I understand as you get older, you might get dementia or you might falter. Those things at that point in your life, it's not even, technically I still consider you growing because you're trying. I think that was the one thing that I never liked about engineering is people, and even in the wood shop here, is that people will see my finished work and be like, it's great. They'll say it's great, or like when I made stuff, when I was doing engineering stuff, people were like, it's great, it's fantastic, it works, whatever, yada, yada, yada. But I never liked the finished process or the finished work of things. I always liked the process of how it got there, because then you can see the fullness of the creator in its creation. So I always fucking do a tangent here, but I want to wrap that back to wiping it clean, right? Like wiping the slate clean is that those things are connected. That whole idea of like the process to get there and not having your house destroyed, metaphorically again, of course. Hopefully that made some sense. Fucking hell, man. I feel like I'm just rambling anymore, but take care.